Hey, good morning, YouTube. We're early. Good morning, YouTube. We're early. So we're going to go. We're early this morning. So let's tune in because it takes some folks a little bit of time to start. So good morning. Good morning. And we're live. We are live. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for taking time out to join me this morning on our broadcast as we continue to talk about the stuff that matters. We continue to do this and talk about it without fear or favor because we believe that we are on a mission and that our mission is to spread the good news, to spread the good news of love, the good news of unity, and the good news of overcoming all things. So this morning, I just want us to, as we gather together this morning, I want us to pause and reflect that we got up this morning, we're alive, and that we're going to give God thanks for being alive because it could have been us. We could have been a hashtag this morning. We could have been the ones that they're calling for prayer about. It could have been us that there are SWAT teams and all kinds of people all over the place examining what's left or what has happened to our lives. It could have been us that our family members are, hi, God doesn't exist. Whatever you believe, I agree with you. Whatever you believe, I accept. So it doesn't have to be God. You have some sort of belief system. If you don't call him God, prerogative. I don't quarrel with people who say God doesn't exist because it is what it is. Okay? But this is my belief. This is what I believe. I believe in God. I believe that God exists. And that's it. So there are people who were worshiping at a mosque. They call God Allah, right? And they were worshiping. Today it's now Friday night there, right? Almost Saturday morning there, right? In Christchurch, New Zealand, it's Friday night. And they were worshiping at a mosque, just going about their business. So I just want us to pause today and give God thanks because here we are. We're still here. We're still here. We're still here. And maybe your belief system does not coincide with mine, regardless. Regardless, the fact of the matter is that we're still alive. So whether you believe God is or God isn't, you're alive. Give thanks for that. Can you give thanks for that? Right? Hello. Right? Hi. Hello. Right? So today I want to talk about the unity of hate. And I want to tell you how this happened because I saw this thing coming from a mile away. In the year 2012 was when it began to really become a problem here in America because after Barack Obama, remember Barack Obama, the first black president in the United States? After Barack Obama was elected, we began to see the stirrings of a group of people who apparently did not like the fact that a black man was elected president. Remember that? Facebook, y'all remember that, right? And so at first we thought they were just obstructionist policies because we really did not want to accept that hatred of the color of your skin still exists. I mean, we know it exists, but most people voted for him. So what's the problem, right? That's how we wanted to view it in that context. But what we didn't realize was that there are people who have vested interest. There are people who are so filled with hate that there is nothing you can do to stop them from hating you. You know that, right? Sometimes we call them our family members. Sometimes they're co-workers. Sometimes they're neighbors, right? Anybody has ever had an altercation with a neighbor? The neighbor on either side, right? They move their fence. They do everything that is possible to obstruct your life. There are people who will hate you no matter what. There are people who will hate you no matter what you look like, no matter what you sound like, no matter what you do. There are some people whose lives seem to be dedicated to hatred, right? And so after Barack Obama was elected, we began to see it. So in 2012, after the elections, I started to write about the unity of hate and how people organize and come around something that they hate. They normally wouldn't like each other. They normally would not even be in the same room or on the same platform, but just because they hate someone, they tend to unite around that ideal. And I was just amazed at how various hate groups across the country had organized around that common enemy. Quickly, they found their common enemy was this black man who had been elected president. Suddenly, there was an uptick in hate crimes. Suddenly, there was an uptick in hate messages. In fact, the Ku Klux Klan had begun advertising on Instagram. My youngest daughter told me that they had advertised on Instagram and they had a phone number. So I looked them up. I called them because at the time I was on radio here in Detroit. I was on 1440 AM. So I wanted them on my show. So I called them and they called me back and left a voicemail because they said when you called and left a message, we had to check you out. So they checked me out. So I called them back. This is the Ku Klux Klan, a group of the Ku Klux Klan. And I called them back and I said, I'd really like you to come on our show and talk to us. Tell us about why you're a member of the Klan and so on. So I asked this question. I said, are you now going to admit responsibility for the hatred that was conducted during civil rights? Are you going to admit that Ku Klux Klan members lynched black men in the South? You know what he said? He said, no, that was not us. That was not the Klan. That was the feds. I was rolling on the floor laughing. He actually said that was the feds who did that the feds infiltrated the Klan. I saved that voicemail for about 3 years. I think I finally deleted it last year. I kid you not. He said that the Ku Klux Klan had been infiltrated by the feds, and it was actually the feds who performed lynchings. Can you believe that? And he said, ma'am, honestly, I can't even talk to you because the feds listened to my conversations. And he's based in the East Coast, so he couldn't tell me where on the East Coast he was, but it was like an Ohio phone number, area code, right? And he said, but what I can tell you is that you're in Detroit, so there are a couple of clan groups near you. One is in Fraser, Michigan. I had to go look that up. But it surprised me at the unity of hate and how organized they were, that he could tell me right away off the bat that though he's based on the East Coast, that there was a Ku Klux Klan near me right here in Detroit. And it inspired me to go write this blog about the unity of hate, how people had found their common enemy and organized around it to the extent where they had now become an organized group. And to me at that time, this is early 2013, 6 years ago now, I thought if this gains momentum, we're going to have a problem. So we need to stop it. So I created this hashtag, the unity of hate and stop the hate, so that I could raise awareness about hatred and its ills. Fast forward, it's 6 years later. This is 2019. Just last year in 2018, we had a mass shooting at a temple in Pennsylvania where people were worshiping on a Saturday morning, and a gunman went in and opened fire and shot people as they were worshiping. 11 people were massacred. Today, this morning, while we were asleep, in Christchurch, New Zealand, on the other side of the world, way over on the other side of the world, people in the middle of the day, because it's Friday over there, right? In the middle of the day, the notification first came through late last night. I could not sleep for the life of me. Guys, I had the worst time falling asleep last night. And I kid you not, I just couldn't do it. I'm going to tell you exactly when this first notification came in last night. It came in 40 people. It was at 2:34 a.m. last night, right? And that was a 40 people dead in New Zealand mosque attacks, right? And I tell you that I was so shocked because the notification went off while I was sleeping. And I have a special notification alert tone for the BBC, because usually when that happens, it's usually an international incident and it's usually noteworthy enough, right? So the local news and so on, maybe that doesn't. I sleep right through that one, right? Somebody's asking me, who am I? Hi, I'm an author and speaker. Go to harrietkamick.com and see what we do. Thank you so much. And so we were talking. So I read a blog. I wrote a blog about the unity of faith and how important it was for us to understand that these massive hate groups across the country were uniting around a common foe. The common foe are people of color, and that we needed to become aware, because it was only a matter of time before they transferred their hatred from people who worship God in a different way or who worship in a different way to people of color. Because that's always the genesis of it, isn't it? That's always the genesis. You will always find fringe elements inherent in every religion, in every social group, in every class. There will always be a fringe element. There will always be someone who takes the doctrine of a group to the extreme. That's why extremism is always wrong. And what you find happening in the world today is that people take their religion, they take their belief systems, their social groupings to extreme lengths in order to perpetuate and to promote and to continue to promote what they believe. And we've got to be able as a group to be able to say that there is enough of this going on. There's just enough of it. And I don't know. I don't know what it is that is causing people to be I don't know what it is that is causing people to be able to do to be able to organize around this. But it's come to the point where we have to be able, and we must stop the hate. We have to end the hate. We have to stop the hate. We contribute to hatred. We contribute to spread the doctrine of hatred by our everyday words and our everyday actions, right? We contribute to how things happen by the way we disclose and the way we say stuff about stuff. We contribute to hate by deriding and demeaning others. Let's face it, America is not vanilla white anymore. Western Europe and some parts of the world that used to be vanilla white, that has not been like that for more than 100 years. What is happening is that people are no longer kept under the covers. People are no longer allowing themselves to be forced into what are defined groups. People are emerging out of these groups and they are talking, right? No more hate. Why do people do this? Exactly. Why do people do this? Exactly. Exactly. Why are people continuing to hate? Stop the hate. We've got to stop the hate. Listen to me very carefully. It's not very far off from happening in America. You do realize that, right? It's only a matter of time before it happens. After all, they have gone into churches and shoot up black people. They've gone into temples and shoot up Jewish people. It's only a matter of time before they go into a mosque in America, right? Right here in my city, in Detroit. I live in Detroit, Michigan. This is hometown for me, right? Southeast Michigan is my home. And right here, we have the largest Muslim population, and outside of the United Arab Emirates, outside of all the Arab countries in the world, in a city called Dearborn, Michigan. These are my brothers and sisters. These are my friends. These are folks whom I do business with. These are folks who We have a free exchange. They're a provider of service. I'm a provider of service. And these are my friends, my neighbors, my doctors, my friends. These are people who serve the community. I kid you not. If such a thing were to happen in America, I'm going to have a problem with it because these are normal, everyday folks who get up and go to the mosque to worship. I don't even go to church anymore because every time I go to church, as soon as I hear a sound, I turn around anticipating that somebody is going to walk in there with an Uzi or an AR-15, the rifle of choice, right? And I just want to know, why is it that we are going to continue with this hate? We've got to stop the hate. We've got to stop the hate. We can't continue to promote hatred. We can't continue with it, either with our public policy or with by our actions. Good morning, Dr. Simpson. We can't continue to do this. This is the craziest thing that I have seen. I mean, for the life of me last night, I couldn't sleep. I just couldn't fall asleep. I just kept tossing and turning. It's almost as if I knew the atmosphere had been stirred up and something was wrong. No wonder when I heard the BBC thing go off, I reached for my phone immediately. And I was like, this got to be significant enough. I said, gee, did another plane crash out of Ethiopia? Because that's what happened the last time one crashed, right? And then when I picked it up and I saw it, I said, this has got to stop. We have to stop, because here in America, right here in Metro Detroit especially, there are a number of mosques. Do you all know where they are? Right? There are plenty of mosques. They're not just in Dearborn. They're all over the place. There's one in Sterling Heights. There are about 2 in Sterling Heights. There are plenty of mosques. Right? There's one in West Bloomfield. And a couple on the fringe of the border between Dearborn and Detroit. Right? I have been to funerals. I have been to weddings. I have found that my Muslim brothers and sisters have the similar beliefs as I do. In fact, I admire them because they pray more often than we do. They pray 5 times a day. I'm talking about people who are business people who are entrepreneurs, people who work as engineers, people who work as doctors, people who are dentists, people who are just normal, everyday people like you and I. Some of them are lawyers. Some of them are just ordinary housewives. Some of them are just ordinary people working ordinary jobs. Some of them drive a Lyft or an Uber. Some own an auto shop. Some own a grocery store. They're just ordinary people going about their lives. Listen to me very carefully, my white brothers and sisters who promote hatred against people of color. Look at me. I am like you. I'm half white, half black, and half everything else that God made on this earth. It's time to stop this foolishness. You are not going to eliminate people of color off the face of the earth. New Zealand does not belong to you. America does not belong to you alone. Britain and the countries of Europe do not belong to you alone. The world belongs to all of us. We're all citizens of this world. So my white brothers and sisters who are on my feed, because you identify people whom you are going to attack, or people you're looking for, people whose ideas you support, listen to me very carefully. You're not going to eliminate us. You kill one of us, you just shut down that voice, but a million other voices are going to rise up. Because now that you've killed 49 people at a mosque, you have raised up 4.9 million other people. Did you think of that? You thought if you walked into a mosque and just fired guns and killed 49 people, that you made a big headline and you are suddenly newsworthy for a week or two. No, you haven't. You have stirred up 49 million people, because Islam is the largest world religion. It has overtaken Christianity. Think about that next time. And there are extremists and fundamentalists in that religion. There are extremists and fundamentalists in Christianity, which is what you are, because you're the ones who take certain quotes out of the Bible and misquote the Bible and say that because of Ham, the races should not meet. Well, your great-grandfathers were not listening, because here I am. My grandfather, my father's father, my father is dead now. My father's father came from Ireland. So talk to me about this. My mother's grandfather came from Scotland. So talk to me about hatred. Talk to me about colorism. Talk to me about racism. Tell me to my face about that. Come on, talk to me. Because you need to go back and re-examine the priorities on which this world is based. Do you understand what I'm saying? New Zealand is way down under. Nobody wants to live there because it's far from everywhere else. The only people they can get to live in New Zealand are people who are coming from other countries who really they can't be anywhere else, so they go to New Zealand just to keep it going so the place doesn't become a forgotten land with only a few people, maybe 100 people left. What are you going to do? Keep bombing the rest of the world because you're so filled with hate? Go live in your mountaintop, honey. Go live off your welfare on your mountaintop. I'm speaking to my white brothers and sisters who promote hate. You don't like mixing with the rest of us? You think the government has left you because the government is now black and white and brown? You think the government has left you because the government is welcoming all citizens? Okay, go live in your mountaintop and I'll leave you up to the ATF, the DEA, and every kind of alphabet this country has. Let them find you. Because it's ridiculous. No, I'm not. No. You got to understand. We live here in Southeast Michigan. Anything can happen at any time. We're not going to put up with this. So don't come here with your foolishness. Don't come here with your hatred. If you don't like the way the society is progressing, then you're not progressive enough and you're not embracing progressive ideology. Hoof it back to the Appalachians, brother, and stay up there. We don't want you down here because you're anti-progress. And that is exactly what promotes hatred and disunity. Do you see what I mean? What promotes it is the fact that we continue to live with ideologies that are not current. Do you know why slavery was successful for as long as it was? And to put it into context, slavery was not successful for a long time. What happened is they got lucky. So when they brought the first group of blacks here from Africa, they forced them to cohabitate. So they had to what? Make children. And those children had children. So as soon as a girl started having her period, they put her with a man or a boy so she could have children so they could continue to have a workforce. Are you listening to me? That's how it got successful. They only did less than 50 years of traversing the high seas with people back and forth. It was not something that they could sustain. You follow? Are you hearing what I'm saying? So what happens is now that they have this stuff, now that they have done this, there are a group of people who grew up thinking that they would always win because they're white. That's really what is driving it. So when you look globally, what you're seeing is what we call nationalism. Nationalism is really what? Tribalism. It's the perpetuation of a belief system that my tribe is white and we're supposed to be in charge and we're supposed to be the rulers. You can't rule jack because you don't have the sense. We could never leave this great country, the United States, in your hands. You would have destroyed it within an hour because you have no clue. You are not trained. You're not smart. You don't have the intelligence to know what to do, when to do, and how to do. Leave it to the people who are running it. They know what they're doing. They've kept it going. They know what they're doing. The systems of government. Forget about the figureheads that you see in front of us. The president, the vice president, and so on. Those are interchangeable individuals. Those are interchangeable positions. The real power lies in the people whom you can't see. The real power lies in the hands of the people you never see, whose faces you never know, whose names you never know. They're the ones that keep this country running. You think you on your mountaintop, filled with in your little bunker, using your parents' credit card or your credit card to buy stuff off the dark web. You think you're smart? Are you kidding me? Have you not learned any lesson about guerrilla warfare the world over? Where on this planet have you ever seen guerrilla warfare win a sustainable war and run a country successfully? Show me. I stand corrected. Because what you are doing is introducing guerrilla warfare. And the good news is that just like in America, New Zealand is not going to put up with it. They're not going to put up with it. So they find you, they're going to do something with you, just like here. So that's a warning for all the would-be haters who are hanging out in bunkers all over America, waiting for their moment when they think it's their moment to strike. And they're going to get rid of the this and they're going to get rid of all the colors. Really? You realize now that your hatred of colors didn't change anything. You do realize that because we're still here. In fact, we're looking more brown because we're all coming together. So you're going to eliminate all of us? So you think if you kill the leaders, then you get to us? Are you kidding? God will never leave himself without a witness. There will always be someone. They killed Martin Luther King and Edgar Mavers, and they killed Malcolm X. We're still here. Getting better. It's 400 years later, dude. You better watch that stuff. So stop listening to those voices that talk to you when you take your meth and your fentanyl, right? And you mix all your drugs and your alcohol together, and you go in your little workshop to blow up places. And some of you have even become so slick. Some of you, I'm talking to my white brothers and sisters right now. Some of you have even become so slick that you have, because you're white, you take advantage of the inherent and implicit biases that exist in systems. So you are hired into systems. So people think you're just a normal person who just happens to be white and you're just working, but you're actually part of a brotherhood that feels like it's time for you to take over. And you actually think you're smart. Let me help you just a little bit. You see, just like they have cameras on me, they have cameras on you. They may not let you know yet, but they have cameras on you. They know who you are. They check you out. They know everything about you. They're waiting to catch you so they can get all of you. So when you think you're smart, you really are not that smart. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you understand what I'm saying? We've got to stop this hatred, this rampant violence. I'm not going to go to bed at night anticipating that something bad is going to happen. No, I'm not going there with that. Right? I'm not going to go there with that. I'm not going to fear that people are going to, something bad is going to happen. I'm just not going to believe that. Right? And so I just want to know why we think that this is going to continue. This has to stop. Right? And that, my friends, is what it is all about. We've got to get to the place. People are asking why. Why is the unity of hate? Why do we hate? Let me hear what some of my readers, my viewers are saying. No more hate. Why do people hate? And please, you're part of the problem. You're right away start blaming people without facts. You don't even read this manifest. His manifest. Okay, honey. What? So this is, your name is Andy Garcia. I doubt that very much that you are an Andy Garcia, but let's just say that I play with your game with you. Come on. People like me are part of the problem. People like me, what is wrong with me? Andy Garcia, what is wrong with me? My Facebook friends, go over to YouTube. Check this guy out. His name is Andy Garcia. He's saying, people like me are part of the problem. You know what that tells you right away? This is exactly what I'm talking about. Hatred of color. Now, this guy, according to him, his name is Andy Garcia. Isn't Andy Garcia the name of a famous actor? The name of an actor. So this person is probably not Hispanic, but is using a generic name so he can accuse me, a person of color, of being part of the problem. Do you see what I'm saying? So now he's saying I'm part of the problem. You know why he's saying that? This is a guy who is commenting on my YouTube page. You know why he's saying I'm part of the problem? Because I'm a person of color. So this is the racist manifesto. This is the racism that I'm telling you exists. Right? So I'm asking him, why am I a part of the problem? I want to hear his comments. Let's go there. Let's listen to what he has to say. I want to hear what he has to say. I'm curious now, because now I want to know, right? We have to, this is happening. First of all, you don't know your history, because if you knew your history, you would understand where this is coming from. First of all, for us to understand why these things are happening, we got to go for the answers in history. Do you know why this is happening? It's all based, I talk about this all the time. It's all about the Benjamins, right? It's all about the Benjamins. It's all about economics. Now, 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 300 years ago, 400 years ago. Our ancestors from Europe went to conquer lands looking for more wealth because in their ancestral lands that they were given, they didn't have enough money to distribute to all their population. So to gain wealth, they had to go looking for wealth. So they had dreams that they were traveling the rest of the world looking for places where they could make more money, right? Because in their little in Europe, in the little parts of Europe, there was not the bureaucracy that existed was feudalism. And feudalism meant that you were born to with the right to inherited wealth. And inherited wealth was confined to the few. So in order for everyone else to gain wealth, they had to leave. In leaving, they had to go conquer other lands. When they went to conquer other lands, they became just like their feudal masters. They did not what? They did not spread the wealth. They kept the wealth, they conquered people, and they subjugated people. That's the genesis of all of this. Over time, those systems of control and power began to erode as the machine of time took place. New generations rise up. They had seen enough of what hatred and oppression had done. So they determined, new generations said, well, for this, they're going to do something about it. So they rebelled. And in rebelling, the British Empire began to lose its grip. So did the Spanish Empire, so did the Portuguese Empire, so did the French Empire, right? All of them began to lose their grip on parts of the world that they had controlled. So when they began to withdraw from these other territories, what do you think happened? When they began to leave, they left only their culture, but they took all the resources with them. When they took all the resources with them, they robbed those nations. So the people who were left in those countries are like, well, you came here and after 400 years, you took everything we had and then you're going to leave us with nothing. So people began to emigrate. They started going to what they considered to be the motherland. So you had this great inflow that took place up until the 1950s in some parts of Europe, where they went to the motherland looking for a better life. Well, when they went to the motherland, things were not rosy there either, because things were just as bad. I mean, the opportunities were not there for everyone, that's for sure. So it continued. And so violence became the form that the oppressor and the oppressed used to fight with one another. That's what happened. It's all about economics. So now you have a group of people, as time goes on and the bonds start loosening, industry changed, capitalism came in. And when capitalism was introduced, we all know in capitalism, only the strong survive. In capitalism, you have to be a shark. Some of these folks don't have a shark mentality. They were too reliant on a system that made the decisions for them. So they're left behind. So they're looking at other people who come in, who are seeing opportunity where obstacles exist and opposition exists. Some people see opportunity. So they come in and they start taking over. So those who don't have the mental stamina and the wherewithal to fight the system, because the system used to be just built for them to ensure their success, the whites, now they have to rise up, because now the barriers between rich and poor started to widen even more. And they sunk so far down. Their only way up used to be just because they're white. No, it's no longer that. It's not the standard now. They are sunken so low, they decide to fight back against the very people whom they think were on their side. Then they start saying, well, it's not them who is the problem. It's them. Them being people of color like myself. That's the genesis of hate. That's where it comes from. So listen to this guy over here. He says, why am I a part of the problem? He said, he took his message out. Problem I have with you is that you blame everybody based on the color of skin. Okay, if that is not so, then what is it? So he published something and then he stopped. Wait, don't retract it, baby. Let's hear what you have to say. Then what is the problem? Exactly. What's the problem? Folks, I'm going to take a snapshot of this and post it to Facebook, right? Because the problem We have to identify what's the problem. The problem is xenophobia, fear of foreigners. I experience it because I'm a foreigner. Do you hear how I sound? I don't sound like an American, right? I don't sound like a regular person, right? So what happens is when I open my mouth to speak, I sometimes, depending on what environment I'm in, people push back. So I have experienced fear of foreigners. That is what is part of the problem. The problem is fear of the color of someone's skin. Fear, because honestly, a white person who is Russian, when they open their mouth to speak, the first thing you see is the color of their skin. So they get by anyway because they're white. So even if when they open their mouths, they sound like a foreigner, they still get by. They still get lucky. So the problem, Andy, is racism. The problem is entrenched, institutionalized racism. And you know something? It's people like me and it's people like the government who are fighting to stomp it out because this is what it creates. It creates mass shootings. It leaves folks feeling dissatisfied because they think they're entitled to something that you really didn't put the effort in. In today's world, we have capitalism. Capitalism says only the strong survive. You got to put your hands into the labor in order to reap. Some of you all don't want to do that. You want to stay in your mountain cabins and in your bunkers and think that you have a right to reaping the spoils. No, baby, we paid for that stuff. This country's commerce and wealth was built on the backs of Black people in the South on plantations. Let's be clear about that. This country's wealth was built on the backs of Chinese immigrants who came here in the 1800s and who were mistreated. This country's wealth was built on the backs of Native Americans. This country's wealth was built on with the cooperation of whites who sat on plantations and determined who got killed, who got beaten, who got raped, and who was impregnated. Let's us be clear about that. Now, can we just accept that? That is our shared history. We need to just accept the fact that, look, we each have something we're not proud of. And if we can just accept that, then we shed the layers. Then we can move forward and shake hands and say, you know something? Our ancestors didn't do it right. They made some mistakes along the way. But right now, we're here. In a lot of ways, that's what the government's ideology today is. We have this shared history. It wasn't perfect, but that's how we got started. Can we move along? Can we move along? Can we move along? That's what the government's ideology is. We've got to make it so that it's safe for all of us, for the good of all. The problem I have with hate groups is they don't think for the group of all. And I'm talking about extremism and fundamentalism in every sector, because I am no friend of ISIS. I don't like ISIS. I think they need help. I think they all need their heads examined. And I think something needs to be done about them wherever they are, because they traffic young girls. They have sex with women and children. They force women and children into sex. And they just go into an area to bomb people because they want to have fun. They too have a problem. They have a problem of self-entitlement. They think that the society owes them something, so they should get it. No, baby, we're under capitalism. We need to go fight. You need to go put your hands in it and claim yours just like the rest of us. Go put your hands in it, get your hands dirty and soiled, get your shoulders to the wheel, employ your brain, and start making it work. The same way you can sit and think about going to Syria or somewhere to fight is the same way you can get up and go fight right in your neighborhood. Go to college. Start by going to college in the first place. How about that? The heart of man is evil. It doesn't matter what the color of skin is. Really, Andy, thank you for your comments. Thank you for being a part of our show today. I appreciate your comments. Come back some other time and see us, right? Not every man has an evil heart. The governor of California is doing away with capital punishment. Not every man has an evil heart. I don't believe every man has an evil heart. I have seen people do great things. So every man does not have an evil heart. People perpetrate their wickedness under ideologies like that. That is not an excuse. Hatred of someone because you don't like how they look, or you don't like how they sound, or you don't like their form of religion, it's still hatred. It's still hatred. Hate is hate is hate. Martin Luther King said, darkness cannot stomp out darkness. Darkness cannot eliminate darkness, but only light can. You have to shine the light of love. And sometimes, even when you love the most horrific people, they never turn around. Some people are impervious to love. This is why governmental systems are not based on love. They're based on raw data and facts, because it takes time for love to turn on some people. It takes time for love to make people come around. And most people don't have a heart of love. They don't have a heart to be able to welcome and receive others, right? And so he posted his manifesto. Unbelievable. Because people are just cruel and wicked. Why I want to read your racist manifesto in the first place? I don't want to read it, right? He had a manifesto. His name is Alexander. He's a right-wing extremist terrorist. He posted a lengthy manifesto detailing his white supremacist worldview. He's a 28-year-old Australian national charged with murder after dozens of people were killed, right? Did you hear that? This is the result of white supremacy. It is. It is white supremacy. Did you know that there were black slave owners? The problem that is, sure, there were black slave owners. Who created that myth? Show me the facts. And Indians used to have slaves. Yes, Indians did. Indians had slaves. That's true, because lynching actually came from Native Americans. Yes, we know that. But show me the black slave owners who actually had slaves. You mean they put up some black people and made them look like slave owners and took a picture to perpetuate this myth? Are you kidding me? Do you know what was going on in the 1800s? You really think that there were black people who were allowed to have wealth and have slaves? Come on. Come on. If that is not a crock, I don't know what is. He had been planning the attack for 2 years. Listen to this. It contains he had a 74-page manifesto titled The Great Replacement. He had been planning the attack for 2 years when he moved from Australia to New Zealand to plan and train. He chose New Zealand because it was one of the safest places in the world. Unbelievable. Right? Oh my God. I tell you, I don't know what on earth, I don't know what on earth is going on, except that white supremacy is a problem. The belief, Bob Marley said this. He said, as long as one race, as long as one group of people continue to believe that they're superior, everywhere is war. There's a song that he sings, it's called War, right? And he said it, and when he wrote the song, this was like 30, 40 years ago, right? At that time, the world really had, the focus was on Africa, because the focus was on ending apartheid in Africa. Apartheid is a white supremacist system of economic oppression against black people. That's their original land. So white people came in there and decided that they were going to take over. Do you see what I'm saying? So what I'm saying to you is that this is not new. By no stretch of the imagination is it new. But what is going to be new is our response to it. Notice how governments around the world are responding to it, because they're not going to put up with it, because it's for the good of all. Because if we allow these kinds of things to happen, they're going to continue to invade our safety. Because that's really, these people, you've heard the term misery loves company. These people are miserable. So they want to create as much misery as possible to make everyone else miserable. This guy said he chose New Zealand because it is considered to be one of the safest countries in the world. So now New Zealand is no longer one of the safest places to be. Good luck to you, brother. Are you having fun? Did you get a thrill out of that? They should lock him up and put the key away, right? Because there's so many people like him who are sitting there saying, if he got away with it, he did it. Whoa, so I can do it too. Wow. Let me see how I can do it. I'm just going to go on YouTube and I'm going to look up how to do this and I'm going to do this. And before you know it, I'm going to be famous, man. I'm going to be so famous, dude. I'm going to be on the news. I'll be live breaking news on CNN. And they think it's fun. They're looking to be a soundbite. Right? They're looking to be a soundbite, right? Do you see what I'm saying? And I'm telling you that we've got to be able to be, in this day and age, we've got to be the watchdogs of our own freedom. I tell you all the time, see something, say something. You see something that doesn't look right, you feel uncomfortable, say something. Let the feds, let the government, let the police authorities all over this country put it in their database. When you call in, they put it in a database. When it goes into a database, when something happens, stuff pops up. Because these things don't go away, they retain it. They archive these things and it stays there until something happens. Then they know where to look for. Wait a minute, didn't we get a call about that? This is popping up. Let's go into that and start looking. See something, say something. Because we cannot afford to be caught up in this. We're not going to put up with it. Not here in Southeast Michigan. It ain't going to happen. Say it all you Detroit 313 folks who live all over Metro Detroit. It ain't going to happen here. Ain't gonna happen here. Okay? But the problem is we go into places of worship and they specifically target places of worship because what? That's where we unilaterally feel safe. When we go to the malls, we're in and out. We walk around the stores, we get what we want, we look, but we're alert, right? We're alert, we're looking. People are looking at people and checking out people because you don't know who is who, so we're looking. But when we go into places of worship, we think we're surrounded what? With people like-minded. People who are seeking to do the same thing. So we drop our guard. And that's it. These folks need to go back into, I say it, crawl back into your bunkers and stay hidden from society. You don't want to participate in the progression of society, in the progressiveness of society, then stay in your bunker. Go back into your bunker. Go in your basement. Go back in your mountain. You feel powerful up on the mountain. You're not even like Moses, dude. Moses was powerful on the mountain and down off the mountain. Moses went up on the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights. Got a revelation, came back down and conquered like that. Just moved like that and conquered. You're not even powerful. So go back up to your mountain. That's where you belong. That kind of ideology cannot exist in modern America. It does not exist in any progressive society. And as for me, if they call on me to come defend this country, oh yeah, I'm lined up. Boom, 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 I'm lined up. Because this is a country devoted to the freedom of the individual. This is a country where even now, even in the face of what we saw yesterday with a college scam that took place, the news broke on Wednesday, and you saw what happened, right? Didn't you see what happened? What happened? They shut it down. They gave those people, they're going to get jail time. Endorsements were redacted. One of the actresses is no longer going to work with Hallmark. She's done. So she thought she had privilege. It was a privilege. But that also tells you that these new money people don't know how to do money. When was the last time you saw old money being mixed up in scandals like this? Say never. Never. You don't even know old money exists. You don't even see them on the news. Old money doesn't go seeking the cameras. Old money doesn't go looking for the news. This is all these new money people who want everybody else to know that they have arrived and they have made it and they now live in the land of the privilege. Well, you paid a price for it. You no longer have privilege when you don't get those endorsements and you don't get those checks. That was a privilege. Old money doesn't get involved. Old money makes contributions to schools all the time. They give what is called endowments. The endowments are given for 10, 20, 30 million dollars, and it covers generations. So anybody who comes from that family goes to that school for generations. But they don't give a press conference. They don't go to Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. They just do it quietly. No one knows. And there's people just going there and pretend that they're nobodies. They're just going there like ordinary people. You see these stories all the time where princes from other countries come to school here in the US and nobody knows that they're a prince. They have security around them who are in class with them. And you don't even know that they're a prince. You just think it's a group of people. That's real money. You have these new people over here. These are new money. They're new. They don't know how to handle it. They were given a position of power, prestige, and privilege. Notice the P's: power, prestige, and privilege. And they didn't understand how to use it or work it, so they lost it. In a lot of ways, our ancestors did the same thing. They were given new opportunities. They had opposition when they came here. They managed the opposition. They got rid of the Native Americans. So they managed the opposition. Look at it contextually, outside of the colors and the racism and so on. But look at it objectively. It was an opportunity. They got an opportunity, right? But what happened? They lost it because they didn't know how to manage the opportunity. You see what I'm saying? They got an opportunity. They thought if they used oppression, they would eliminate the obstacles, because really what they were looking at was validation, because there was not enough wealth in their home countries for them to be successful, because in that day and time, inherited wealth was the bane of their existence. So they couldn't have inherited wealth. So they came here with the intention to create inherited wealth. They just did it wrong. They used oppression. The people in England and Portugal did not take blacks to England and Portugal to enslave, because what were they going to do? Farm what land? There was not enough people over there. They took them here where they thought they had power. They created an elusive prestige. Do you know why slavery failed in the United States? Why? Tell me why. Let me see how much you have studied this stuff. Because we're not thinking, right? Because we're too inundated with information all day, right? Do you know why slavery failed? They failed to plan. They never had an exit strategy. Did you know that? The planters, the people who owned the plantations in the South, they never had an exit strategy. They didn't have a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, or a 20-year plan. No, they didn't. They didn't have a budget. They didn't have a plan, period. So when opposition came, oh my God, what are we going to do? Was their response. Oh my God, let's go to war. Oh my God, well, let's fight the people from the North. They're crazy. They did not have and the people from the North were like, what's your plan? Show me the plan. They didn't have a plan. That's why slavery failed. They didn't have a plan. They thought their plan was to continue using the slaves to continue to make children. They didn't plan for the fact that eventually the slaves would unite over time and gather up, and that there might be other people who would join with them. They never thought of that. You're a general going to war and you don't take those factors into consideration. What about the people on the countryside? What are they going to do? Are they likely to support us, or are they likely to be against us? Plan a contingency around that. They did not plan for that. That's why slavery failed. Otherwise, it would have continued until now. Are you listening? The unity of hate is powerful. The unity of hate is powerful in its context. It's powerful in its goal, and it's powerful in its agenda. The genesis of it, how they think about it, they let that infuriate and fuel them and power them up. But the problem is, they don't think beyond the exit. It's still the same people who were running the South. They did not think of the exit because, frankly, after you've created a public safety issue, what's what happens? You and I know. You bring out law enforcement, the enforcers of the law. What do? They come, they show up, and they do what? They enforce the law, right? Isn't that true? They enforce the law. So when they come and show up and enforce the law, what happens to you? You go to jail. That is the problem. They don't think beyond the exit. They can't form a plan. It's not sustainable because they don't have the mindset and the resources. They don't think like that. So that is why their plans fail. Extremists and fundamentalists in every religion and in every social group, I have found their one weakness. Those suckers do not know how to plan. They never think beyond the exit. Because when you look at their plan, on paper, of course it sounds good, but logistically it can't be implemented, dog. You're sitting there and you're like, hey, this is not even worth the paper it's printed on because it can't be implemented because they don't factor in. It's like ISIS. ISIS thought they could create a caliphate, right? A caliphate, a government, a country that had no borders, no territories. They would just conquer villages as they moved along. That was their plan. They never factored in what countries like Israel, that Israel would look at them and say, wait a minute, huh? They never factored in what the rest of the world was going to do. They probably thought it was so far from America that if they could attack US troops right there, then that would weaken. They didn't see the bigger picture. The US troops that you see over there, baby, you should worry about the ones you don't see. They're fighting wars from satellites. Where have you been? Right? I'm not giving away the secrets here, but the US military is 40 years ahead of what you got. As for you, right? So they didn't plan it out. So they failed because the US military was looking from the sky, watching them run around, listening to their conversations from the sky. You see where I'm coming from? They failed to plan. That's why extremism cannot work. The genesis of it, there is a force in the universe called love. And no matter how long it takes, love is going to win. And the force of hate, though it is powerful, and though it is most destructive, the thing with hate and the unity surrounding hate is that it is destructive. That's all the power that it has, is that when it is unleashed, it causes mass destruction. But it is not more powerful than love. You know where you see love? Remember the Pennsylvania temple shooting last year? When Muslim brothers and sisters the next day gave a press conference and told their Jewish brothers and sisters, if you need us to stand outside your temple so you can worship, we will do it. Now that is love. Forget about everything else. It was just like we're all under attack here. But if you need us, just know we're your cousins. We're here. Just reach out and tell us. I am looking for that today. I am looking for the Jewish community to reach out to the Muslim community and to say, we're here for you. Just like the Muslim community reached out to the Jews and the Christian community reached out to the Jews, I want to see us all wrap our heads around our Muslim brothers and sisters. Today, Friday, here in the United States, is worship day for Muslims all over this country. They're going to worship in Minnesota, in Michigan, in Virginia, in Oregon, right? Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, California, North, South Dakota, Idaho, Iowa, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Mississippi, Arkansas, My beloved country, the United States. I love this country. America, I love you. Please, America, we got to stop the hate. I love this country and I love the people here. America, we got to stop the hate. All today, they will be at mosque all today. Reach out and love them because it could be us next. We go to church Sunday. Tomorrow, check this out. Look at this. Look at the irony here. Friday is worship day for the Muslims. Saturday is worship day for who? The Jews. And Sunday is worship day for Christians. Hello. Do you see when I say we have intersections? The intersectionality of our lives. Look at that. Look at how our lives intersect. Muslims worship Friday, Jews worship Saturday, and Christians worship Sundays. So the unity of hate, their common bond is hate. But what about the unity of love? Our common bond is love one to another. That's our first bond. The unity of hate was not built on love of their community or love of their society to keep them. The unity of hate is built on what? It's built on hatred for all. That's why it can't survive. But love, say but love is built on love for all. So like my friend here on YouTube, Andy, right? Not going to cast aspersions on him because I know he's probably using a fake name, right? And Andy, when he sees me, he's not going to tell me that I'm part of the problem. Because when you tell me, if you're white and you see me and you tell me I am part of the problem, the first thing that comes to my mind is you object to my personhood. You object to me being here because of my color. That's your objection. And I'm looking at you like, excuse me, I object to your presence because you're offensive to me and everybody else. Because you're using color as a basis of validation for your existence. Well, guess what? I'm a human being with color. So I exist. And I have a right to exist because I'm a person and I'm a human being. You see what I mean? You're never gonna win that argument with me because I am not the person who I'm not the one who just simply just doesn't exist. I don't believe in that stuff. I'm not that person. Okay? So what I really want us to pause today, and I really want us to think about this. I want us to think about how do our lives intersect and how do we impact others. I really want us to focus on that. I need us to think about it, and I need us to start thinking about ways in which we allow others to influence us. We've got to stop this stuff. You need to go to Instagram and Twitter and social media and create a hashtag called Stop the Hate. I have it trending. I have it already. Stop the hate. I need you to go and tell others, stop the hate. Whenever the story comes, if you're going to talk about the story, stop the hate. We've got to let the people who perpetuate hate understand that we, the people who love and believe in love, are not going to allow you to tear down our society, tear down our country, tear down our way of life because you hate. If you hate others for their existence, go somewhere else. Live in your bunker. Don't come out. Don't interact. Go live somewhere else. If you want to take advantage of the opportunities that the society offers, join in the society. Deal with it like the rest of us. Most of us, we have to fight all kinds of barriers all day long. You think we're the only ones with problems? You ever listen to other white people who are not rich? You ever listen to them talk? about the barriers they have too, where they have problems too. They have issues. You ever listen to people? People have issues. People are doing the best they can to get along the best they can. And I'm afraid that we so much sometimes forget, we focus so much on what we hate, we forget to look at the big picture. The problem with this unity of hate, the problem with hate mongers and hate mongering and extremism and fundamentalism, it never focuses on the big picture. It focuses on the object of its hatred. It's an obsession. It's just like somebody obsessed with something, right? A man obsessed with a woman obsessed with a man. They focus on it to the exclusion of all else. They don't see the big picture. It's the same thing with hate mongering. These folks focus only on what they don't like. They don't focus on truth. They don't focus on what people are. My goodness, I'm so thirsty. I need a glass of water. Hang on. I'm running to get a glass of water. I am so thirsty. Hang on, everybody. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back, right? And so they focus on hate. My God, I was so parched. You know, I come here every day and I forget to bring my water. I drink special water. That's why it's so special. Yes. I drink water with ginger. Yes, because it keeps my throat. Believe it or not, it does keep my throat. I use my voice. If you're a teacher who teaches every day, you would understand. People who use their voices every day, if you're a customer service representative, I encourage you to do what I do. I keep water with ginger and I drink it all day. And I forgot to do that. I just simply forgot, right? And my helper is on her way. So if you hear anything going on, it's my helper is here, right? So what happens is we forget how important it is to focus on love, the love that keeps us together, the love that keeps our society going, the love that we have to maintain this for the good of all. And what happens, and I tell you this because at the end of this broadcast, what I want you to realize is that hate is not going to win. Hate is not going to win. Hate will not win because it's weak in its intent, and it's weak in its execution, and it's weak in its purpose. But you know what's going to win is love, because we're going to rise up, and because we love each other, we're going to protect one another. So when we go out, we're going to look out for one another, and we're going to make sure that this does not perpetuate and continue on. The problem with hate, the problem I have with hate, is how they hate you just because of you, like this guy. Just immediately, they look at you and they dislike you. I cannot tell you what it feels like to walk in my skin. You have to walk in my skin, just like you can't tell me what it feels like to be in your skin. I can only imagine what it feels like to be you all day long, much as you can't imagine what it feels like to be. For instance, I was telling someone recently that as a woman, one of the things that happens to us constantly is that because we're women, men just pick on us, right? Now, when it comes from someone whom you mutually admire, that's a different thing, because then there is an exchange, right? But when it's just some random dude who just continues to push his agenda on you, that's when it becomes offensive. And nowadays, it becomes insecure. So I was telling someone that one of the greatest challenges a woman has is you need work done in your house and you call someone to do it. For the life of me, why can't they just come get the work done and be gone? Why do they have to give you a once over? Why they have to look at your body? They don't look at you as the person who is going to pay them or the person who needs a service that they're a provider of. They're looking at you as a woman that they would want to be with. And they don't realize how offensive they are. And you're vulnerable because you tell yourself, I'm here alone during the day, or I'm at home. They know I'm alone during the day. They know you have a husband, a boyfriend, or some man somewhere, but he probably is not always around when you are around. So you know that they can come back, and most likely if they're going to hurt you, they're going to hurt you at the times when you're alone. So as a woman, you feel vulnerable. You men don't understand that, because if most men stop to think like that, I guarantee you they would hurt somebody. Because when they think that's how you have to think. I remember one time telling my boyfriend that, and he was like, "What?" He said, "No." The look that came over his face was like he just went cold. Like he just became like a wooden look came over his face. And I'm like, "Oh, you're looking all crazy, scary on me now." Right? Because what we've got to realize is that you have to literally walk into someone's skin, to walk around in it, to feel how they feel. How do you think people feel that they're going to mosque to worship and now they have to worry about being shot at? How do you think the people who are going to temple on Saturday, tomorrow is Saturday, they're going to temple tomorrow, how do you think they feel right now in Metro Detroit? They're having services at a mosque. They have had one at 10, there's going to be one at 2 o'clock, and there's going to be one later. They have mosque again, they have services again on Wednesday. How do you think they will feel? And what about Christians who are going to march up into the house of God on Sunday? There's church services from 7, 7:30, 8:30, 8, 9, 9:30, 10, 10:30, 11, 11, 12, 1, 2 throughout the day on Sunday. People are going to have church services. How do you think they're going to feel about going to church? How do you think that they are expected to feel about themselves? Right? And so we've created this drama, this thing, and we have got to be the ones to stop it. So you know how we stop it? By loving one another. So when you see something, don't dismiss it, say something. Some of you live in rural areas where you see them, they drive around with swastikas, they have meetings, they do all kinds of stuff, and you are terrified because you can't call the local authorities. Call the feds. You can't call the local authorities, drive to the next major town over and call the feds, because if the local authorities sometimes are part of them. Right? And some of you live in some rural areas and you are a person of color and you are terrified out of your wits. You're like, I'm stuck in this rural town because that's all the job I have. I couldn't make it in a big city. I live on my family's house. We've lived here for, a long time, and this is it for us. I get you. I get you. I get that. But you're going to have to live with the power of love. You're going to live with the power of love, because this thing in New Zealand, as it unfolds, this guy, go to any of the news sites on CNN.com. They've posted his manifesto. Read it. Read it. It's still white supremacy. And you have white supremacists over here telling me all kinds of stuff. Right? So what you going to do about all of us? You're going to kill off all of us? You're going to kill off people who disagree with you too? And then tell me that that's how revolution started? And how many of those revolutions started on that context succeeded? Because we can go to town talking about that all day long, right? All of you here who have studied history, you're nodding your heads like, yep, let's start the conversation. And here's how I want you to, in your next conversations on Facebook, start talking this stuff out. This is why we're working to end white supremacy. We can't, this has to stop. Because that's the genesis of the problem from the first place. When they call them settlers and explorers, that's a nice way of saying those were people who actually went to other lands and killed people off and took their land. They were thieves and raiders. Right? Let's call it what it is. So 400 or 500 years ago, that's what they did. They believed in white supremacy. They were trying to establish a supreme way of life. Remember Hitler? Have we forgotten Hitler? Because nowadays, the generation after me and you, right? The generations after us, when we talk about Hitler, they look at us puzzled. Because now he's a historical figure. So the threat of what he represented it has died and is dimming. So now people just look at him as a historical figure when he was a dictator and a mass murderer. He sent 6 million people into a gas chamber. Do you know they say that it was 6 million blacks who lost their lives on the crossing? You know what was the crossing? The journey through the Middle Passage from Africa to this side of the world. It's called the journey through the Middle Passage. They say 6 million people, 6 million blacks lost their lives, all in the name of white supremacy. And the funny thing is, I don't know, I have never seen a biology of Hitler. I haven't seen it. But they say Hitler's mother was a Jew. Hello. And he hated his father for leaving. So he turned on the Jews. I'm kind of rolling my eyes here, like, really? Right? And Hitler hated the Jews so much, he created this white supremacist ideology to rid Europe of Jews. Started in Austria, then he went to Germany. They did it everywhere. He was marching through Europe, was about to go to Britain, to the United Kingdom, to England. Just couldn't come over the sea to come over here. Do you see what I'm saying? The unity of hate. And he got all Germans into it. He convinced them that the economic distress they were experiencing was the problem. The Jews caused it. You know who the Jews were? You know the Jews were the merchants in Europe for hundreds of years. Their businesses existed generationally. Hitler, one man, convinced an entire groups of people that the Jews were responsible for the economic distresses they were in, when it was actually their own fault. Their crops were dying in the field. They were not investing in an industry like America was. America was over here hunky-dory all day. Hey, oh, living on the farm. And they had just come out of, slavery, and they were just trying to exist over here. America was working its way forward. And there was Hitler telling white Europeans that their problems, their economic problems, were as a result of the Jews and industry and the Jewish way of life, their ideology, that they owned businesses. So what was the first thing they did? They confiscated their property and possessions, as if that now immediately they were going to be transformed to be high society, and they were going to be transformed to having wealth. And people listened to that. That's why you have to be careful of the ideologies of hatred. That's why not everybody I listen to. There's not every talk show that I listen to. And I thank you for listening to me, because some of them spread vitriol. Some of them spread hatred. And not everybody is going to tell the truth. Some of them spread living hatred. I don't care what color they are. It's hatred. Hate is hate. They don't spread unity. They don't talk about love. They don't talk about the promotion and the progress. It's one thing to talk about what is wrong, but it's an entirely different thing to also talk about what is right, and to talk about what works and focus on what works. And I am afraid that some of us are not focusing on what works. I like to think that if that system is broken, let me find an alternative to making it work, or here's a way around it. Here are some steps you can take to make sure you progress within the system, though broken as the system is that exists. Some folks do not talk like that. What they do is continue their program of hatred. And that's how Hitler succeeded. He got into people's mindsets, got them to focus on so much on what was wrong, and that it was somebody's fault. So if you listen to this white supremacy doctrine, it's the colored's fault. The coloreds are all of us. It's our fault why other whites are experiencing economic displacement. And so they focus on it and focus on it. And there are people who ascribe to that belief, and there are people who start believing it, and there are people who decide that they're going to act on it. And that's how the unity of hate gets spread, by one person after another, believing. And before you know it, we have a common problem. Our common problem is that people start lining up and believing. They start perpetuating this. They start acting like it. And before you know it, we have mass widespread disaster. Now, this is why it's important. If you see something, say something. Because seeing something and saying something is for the good of all. This kind of propaganda from this unity of hate doctrine and white supremacy doctrine is never about the common good. No, they write it in language that is oratorical and flowery. They make it sound like we've been so enslaved and displaced. That is not even true. How is it so when you are the color that perpetuates economic power? But there are enough people who will listen to it, who will ascribe to it and believe it, and who will execute. That's how extremism flourishes. Remember that extremism is extremism is extremism all day, every day. Extremism flourishes on its own. Extremism just has ideas. It's like the herd mentality. Have you ever seen how they stir it up? You remember Jesus? I told you the story of Jesus. There's this guy named Jesus, this historical figure, a religious figure, right? 7 days. He walked into he rode on a donkey into the city, into the land of Canaan on a donkey. And they laid down palm trees and said, Hosanna, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Hosanna to the King. Hosanna, Hosanna, Hosanna. 7 days later, those very same people gathered and said, crucify him. You can't base your whole life system on the beliefs of others. What is truth? Love is truth. We have to love one another. We can't let hatred continue to define our way of life. That's what's going on. Hatred has come to define our way of life. Mass hatred. If one group of people believe in the supremacy of themselves, then that is to the extinction and exclusion of everyone else, isn't it? That's to the exclusion and extinction of everyone else. That means no one else can exist in this sphere but I. And the reason I'm having issues is because others exist in this sphere. So we must get rid of others so that I can exist. That is exactly how Hitler felt. There is a book called Mein Kampf. Hitler wrote it before he died. My life. He killed himself. Yeah, they don't want you to say that because it sounds weak, but he killed himself because he did not want to surrender to the US general that was on his butt, who was coming, and they were going to lock him up for war crimes, and he wouldn't have seen the light of day. So he killed himself. So before he killed himself, he wrote a book called Mein Kampf, and they published it. Yeah, he had a lover who was down in the cellar with him. Yeah, he did. He ended up going down because the Allies were all over him. Her name was Eva Braun. I think she was the one she survived. She published the book. How do I know so much about it? My ex-husband was a fan. That's how I should have known he was abusive, y'all. Because one of the first books he told me I should read was Mein Kampf. He had a copy. He had one of the few original copies. He had a copy of Mein Kampf and told me that it was one of his most beloved works and I should read it. I was horrified. I was like, did you live in New York? How did you come to associate with white supremacy and so on? And he's like, that's not white supremacist doctrine. That's just a doctrine of how to live. I said, so Hitler is influencing you even though he's been dead through his writings? I'm like, that book needs to go. I kid you not. I kid you not. That's how I should have known. Don't laugh at me. Don't laugh. I know you guys out there on Facebook are dying and laughing at me. But it's true. It's my story. Twitter and Periscope, it's true. That was one of the first times I should have seen it coming. Right? I'm just saying that to make you, to bring some humor to the subject for just a second, because we're going to wrap up in just a minute because it's time to go, right? We have another 6 minutes and we're going to wrap this up so that you can go think about this stuff. But here's some things I want you to keep in mind. This is not going to be the end of this. There are going to be other people who are going to continue to perpetuate rather, the unity of hate. And you understand what I'm saying? There are other people who are going to do it. That's one thing. Number two, we mourn with those who mourn. And we're going to grieve with those who grieve. It's shocking and it's an outrage. And we should feel outraged. We shouldn't think it's somebody else's problem. After all, where is New Zealand anyway? The fact that it happened in New Zealand means it can happen to us, right? And it will happen, right? Thirdly, see something, say something. If you live in an area where you feel like maybe I can't report this through law enforcement, then through local law enforcement, then drive out and go to to the nearest town or report it to the feds. Look up the number for the FBI.gov. It's in your phone. You'll have a number. They'll give you a number to call. Call. Tell them I have something to say and I don't want to be held accountable, and I'm not going to give my name or anything, but I feel like there's some folks out here you need to pay attention to. Stand up. Because they're out there. They're in rural America. Right? They're planning, and they never cease planning. The fourth thing I want you to remember about these folks, they never give up. Neither should we. They never give up. You thought Hitler died in the 1940s after World War II had ended? Nah. This is 2019. Almost 80 years later, and we're still dealing with this. Right? So, think on these things. The things that are beautiful, the things that are light. Think on love. Love overcometh evil. Shine your light of love. When you see someone who wears a hijab or a Muslim person, smile. For somebody who worships in a different way, I still smile. Smiling breaks down barriers. Because I promise you, if I start smiling with you, I'm going to make you smile. And I'm relentless at making you smile. Smile. Just smile. Sometimes you don't have to say anything. You can just smile. And they will smile right back. Because the love that is in you will be evident as you smile. So smile. Promise? Promise that you're not going to judge anybody. You're not going to prejudge people. You're not going to let media and other influencers tell you that just because you see someone wearing a hijab or dressed differently, that means they're terrorists. The biggest terrorist New Zealand has ever faced was a white man from Australia. A 28-year-old white man from Australia who went to New Zealand. He crossed an international border because he could, because his white privilege allowed him to sneak in under the radar. He lived there for 2 years and planned this attack. And he deliberately chose New Zealand because it was the safest place in the world, which meant that he probably thought they had loopholes in their security system. Because he couldn't undertake that in Australia, because the last time they did that, there was a big hoopla and they found them and blah, blah, blah. So he went all the way to New Zealand. And because he was white, he got away with a lot of stuff, bought all the weapons he needed, and moved quietly and in the shadows. So smile. And even as you focus on these things, focus on love. Still get up tomorrow and go to worship if you're Jewish. Still get up Sunday and go to worship if you're Christian. Still go down on your knees and pray. Yes, pray. Somebody over here said God doesn't exist. Well, that's your belief. I'm not going to fight you about that. But for those of you who believe in a belief system and believe that God exists, still say a prayer. Some people don't know how much they need God until you do. Maybe you've never needed God. Maybe you've never needed to know everything you've ever wanted to do was just done. Well, more power to you until you come to a place, and I promise you, that place does come to every one of us. You come to a place where you realize that not your money, not your color, not your class can get you out of it. Whatever that might be. It could be health. It could be going to jail. It could be getting trapped in a foreign place and you can't get out of it. It could be anything. And that's when you know you need God. God has a way of bringing all of us to our knees at a point at which only He can help. So until you experience that, you won't know. But I can promise you, it will come. And so today, Friday, as our brothers and sisters who are Muslim go to mosque, some of them are leaving mosque, some are joining the 2 p.m. service, and so on, we pray for peace. Not just here in the U.S., not just where we live, right around our community, here in Metro Detroit, but we pray for peace everywhere. We pray for the family members and the survivors of that massacre as they have to bury and move quickly to bury their loved ones. They have to bury their loved ones and put them to rest. We pray for them. We pray for those who are reliving this trauma as they see it unfold. They're reliving it. We pray for them too. We pray for our leaders who are thinking, trying to find new ways, trying to look into systems to see if did they miss something. Is there someone out there, a fringe element or so out there, who is likely to create a similar thing here in our community? We pray for our leaders that they will have discernment and wisdom and intuition to go after those who would wreak bodily harm on the rest of us. And if you see something, say something. It will keep us all safe. We all need to be safe. So if you see something, for the love of God, say something. We need to be safe. We need to be assured that we're safe. And so when we go to bed tonight, before you go lay down, after the show is over, we've talked about a heavy subject that has caused mass trauma. If it hurts you too much, don't watch too much of it. If it bothers you, don't watch too much of it. Stay away from it, right? Don't see the stories over and over because it bothers you. So negate how much of it you absorb. The second thing to do is go cook something or eat some comfort food. Or go to the mall, go shopping, go to the grocery store, or go hug a baby, smile with someone, hug your partner or your children, right? Tell them you love them. Spread love as much as possible. And finally, take a deep breath. Come on, let's do this all together collectively. Come on. Ready? On the count of 3, I'm going to count down to 1. And when I say 1, come on, let's do it. 3, 2, 1. Breathe. I want you to exhale on the count of 3. 3, 2, 1. Breathe. It's going to be all right. It is going to be all right, New Zealand. It's going to be all right, Australia. It's going to be all right, France, Europe. It's going to be all right in Somalia, in Ethiopia. It's going to be all right in Africa, everywhere, in Nigeria, Benin, Ivory Coast, Western Africa. It's going to be all right in Canada. It's going to be all right. The most beloved place of all. The greatest nation on the face of the earth, the United States of America. I love you. I love you all. Thank you so much for joining me today on this day. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time, your energy, and your presence. Thank you, Mr. Garcia, for your comments. Thank you to everybody who commented on YouTube. Remember to join me on Monday as we continue to talk about what matters. So join me again. We stream from YouTube, Facebook. So if you can't find us on one social media, find us. We also stream from harrietkamek.com as well. So make sure you find us wherever. Go to amazon.com and buy my books. Thank you so much, everybody. Be blessed. Hey, Facebook. Hey, Periscope. Bye, everybody. See you Monday. Have a great weekend. Bye, YouTube. See you. Have a great weekend. And finally,